Modest Mouse is one of those big alternative rock bands that came out of the post-grunge era in the US. By putting out quality music, doing interesting collaborations, and never breaking apart, the band members moved to the forefront of modern rock music. But most fans would say that one of their albums did most of the work for them. Their second full-length album, The Lonesome Crowded West, from 1997. It was a versatile album filled with everything from brooding acoustics to post-punk tendencies. But aside from the versatility, vocalist and guitarist Isaac Brock managed to capture something very relatable with his lyrics. His hometown was plagued by sudden urbanization, and overall, it seemed like he struggled to grow up and embrace the change that was happening around him. A lot of young people resonated with this, and the album has since become a fan favorite, despite of not giving the band the critical success that they would receive with later releases. Let's take a closer look. Isaac Brock was a teenager when he worked at his family's video store in the outskirts of Seattle, in a small city called Issaquah. During this time, Isaac met bassist Eric Judy and drummer Jeremiah Green. They formed a band, and in '94 they decided to record their first EP, Blue Cadet 3, Do You Connect? After this, they released their debut album and another 2 EPs before releasing their breakthrough full-lengther, The Lonesome Crowded West. This album is regarded by many fans as their best album and a staple of what 90s alternative rock was all about. But more than that, it was also an introspective collection of lyrics that expressed Isaac Brock's concern with the urbanization of his hometown and neighboring cities. Strip malls were built with a sudden boom in the economy. A new culture of tech people moved in with the advancements of technology, and generally their whole town changed. With this, Isaac felt a sense of alienation and anxiety, and a lot of people felt like he was able to communicate this feeling in a very eloquent way. A great example is highlighted in the first song of the album, Teeth Like God's Sunshine. Isaac thinks of the entrepreneurs in his city as mindless people that ruin the charm, culture, and overall life quality of the area because of their obsession with accumulating wealth. You could combat your conscience. Later on, Isaac shares his views on consumerism in general, and he comes off as a very simple guy. It seems like he's the type of person that values friendships more than money at all costs. No pun intended. He's living a minimalist lifestyle and doesn't buy things for the sake of happiness. Well, do you need a lot of what you got to survive? Now, after they'd released their first 2 records and built a solid fan base as a band in their local cities, their label's founder, Chris Takino, believed so much in them that he bought them a van so that they could go on and tour. Back in the pre-internet era, the way to get your music out there in front of people was to play as many gigs as possible. And while most artists would steer away from creating songs about being on the road because of fear of coming off as too cliché, Isaac chose to embrace it. Just by looking at the titles of these songs on this album, you assume that some of the songs are about driving, sleeping, and generally living in a van. And I think you'd be right in that assumption. Isaac had been on various vacations across the country with his family in the past, and naturally felt good on the road. I guess that's why he kept writing songs about traveling, because it made him feel nostalgic. Or maybe it was just the fact that he could get away from the stressful environment of his hometown that made him want to write about that lifestyle in the first place. Other than songs about urbanization and tour life, Isaac also sang about the meaningless nature of life. For a long time, and still to this day, a lot of people find a sense of peace and meaning in religion in the US. But as urbanization and technology became more involved in our lives, less people turned to spiritual practices. and Isaac is one of them. In Heart Cook's Brain, Isaac refers to God with a sense of doubt and hopelessness.
I'm on my way to God, don't know. My brain's the burger and my heart's the cold.
In interviews, he has qualified himself as an atheist, but also commented on the fact that he loves to use God as a concept in his lyricism because it made it easier for him to express himself. Overall, he's thinking of God as a source of meaning for a lot of people, but he also implies that these people give up their minds to follow their hearts. They make a huge sacrifice in the process of becoming believers. They leave their criticism behind and enter, possibly, a vacuum of ignorance. Isaac is lost in a battle between his heart and his mind. He is still pretty young when writing this, and many of his first fans and close collaborators complimented him on his ability to communicate this struggle. It's naturally something that a lot of people go through when they're young, or in certain stages in their lives. Although Heart Cook's Brain goes deep into Isaac's state of mind and struggles as a young adult, it doesn't tell us much about where he's coming from. But this is where songs like Trailer Trash comes in.
Living choice with no class. Goddamn, I hope I can pass high school.
Isaac used to live with his family in a trailer park as a young child. His family was far from rich, and at the time it seemed like this bothered him. He is outright self-deprecating in the lyrics, and he seems like a guy with low self-confidence.
Goddamn, I am such a jerk, I can't do anything.
His fellow bandmates have stated that he's a man of few words and that he's better at being honest through songwriting than conversations. Nowadays, it seems like he's been able to accept his past in the trailer park. Now, in addition to writing songs about his life philosophy, views on consumerism, and current life on separate levels, there are also songs that tie all of these themes together. Bankrupt on Selling is an example of such a song.
Well, all the apostles there sitting in swing saying I'd sell off my savior for a set of new rings and some sandals.
As you can see, the song marries the concepts of religion and consumerism, showing how the culture is shifting. Now, the exact reason why these songs, this album, and Modest Mouse as a band became a staple of 90s experimental rock in the first place is hard to explain. There's a variety of reasons why this happened, but one of them is more clear to me than others. Isaac Brock brought up topics that many other artists discussed at the time: the digitalization, urbanization, and constant ramping up of consumerism in our society, and the feeling of alienation that came with it. The loss of connection with our hearts, or a higher power, if you will, for a more thought and ego-driven world. We've lost connection with our past, with our natural instincts. And this theme that was so popular and so impactful in the 90s is still going on today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more video essays about rock and guitar related music, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell button below, and you'll see my videos every Thursday from now on. Also, if you want to know more about Modest Mouse, their history, and their discography, I just released a booklet on Amazon filled with awesome illustrations and facts if you want to know more. So click the link below if you want to check it out. Cheers, bye.